All right. Hello, everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am super excited, or as my English friends would say, I am absolutely dead chuffed to be chatting today with Vicky Psarakis of the Agonist, one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite vocalists. So thrilled to be chatting with you today, Vicky. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite. Super stoked.
Excellent.
I don't have a beer myself, but it's all good.
In spirit, in spirit.
Yeah, in spirit. I'll get there. I'll get
All
there.
right. Excellent. Well, so why don't we start with kind of what's going on with you right now? You are a very busy person. You've been doing a lot of stuff recently, including I know you recently were in Canada not too long ago, a couple months ago, doing some recording with the Agonist, new material with the Agonist, as well as you're doing some work with your husband. So yeah, if you want to. I know that's a lot probably, but
Yeah.
maybe if you want to start kind of chatting about what's going on with you right now.
Uh, it's, I don't know. It's basically what you just said. I've just been, I guess, overwhelming myself with as much music as possible. Um, I think, when 2020 happened and, touring stopped, a lot of musicians had to just take a step back and kind of reevaluate um, life
Right.
and everything, because you get caught up in this routine as a musician where you're just like, okay, we create music, we put out an album, we tour, you know, and repeat,
Right.
basically. But then touring stopped, and we didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last. And for a lot of musicians, touring was the norm, or it was their main source of income. So what happened is that a lot of people either had to find alternatives, or some people stopped doing music. For me, it was basically a kind of kick in the butt, I guess, because I found I would often make excuses. Like I have all these ideas, one of these people that I can't go to bed at night because I have all these ideas in my head.
Right.
Um, but I'd be gone. I'd be gone like in 2019, I was gone 9 months out of the year.
Oh, wow.
So I would have these ideas and I would immediately shut them down because I'm not at home. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. So that happened, and I'm like, well, not anymore. You're gonna be home for a long period of time. Time to make things happen. So I basically switched to full-time musician. You know, more is more. The Agonist, Sicksense, like you mentioned, new band. I've been doing a bunch of covers. I've been streaming on Twitch, just as much as I can. I wake up in the morning, and it's just music all day long. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Nice. Yeah. And if for those out there that are listening, one thing that's you mentioned your covers, your YouTube channel. You do a lot of cool covers. You've been doing it for quite a while now. In fact, I think you started years ago, correct? I mean, like many years ago, but now you've really, this past year, you've
Yeah,
really started doing a lot. And
yeah,
it's incredible. There's some really amazing performances
thanks.
on there. You know, three that stand out for me. I mean, all of them are great, but the three that really stood out for me was Devin Townsend. That was brilliant and funny and entertaining, and loved it. Loved the devil suit and just the kind of emulating the his video and
Yeah.
just that was great. And then also I thought the tribute you did to Alex from Children of Bodom, the Hate Me was phenomenal. That was fantastic. I mean, just really brilliant. And then also Epica, that was another huge standout for me as well. I thought that was fantastic as
Awesome.
well. So yeah, really cool stuff. And I'll for everybody out there listening, in the description of this, and there'll be links to check that out. And I would highly recommend to check out Vicky's YouTube page. I watch it all the time. It's great.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it's really cool stuff. So yeah, you have it's cool because you have a very wide range of music on there, and obviously influences that and things that you like, which
Hmm.
is cool to see, and great musicians too that you're playing with as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I really do feel blessed to be surrounded with great musicians, like both in my original bands and with covers that I do. I do have a certain, I don't know, perfectionist brain when it comes to things, and I will say it's hard. It's hard to find people that you can, work well with and that can respect you enough and make sure that everyone is happy, but also be like great players at the same time. That's how a lot of like bands split up and stuff like that, just because, they don't get along.
Yeah.
So I feel super blessed to have this like big network of people that, I could just make great music with, and it's fun above all, I mean, it's obviously my job at this point and I make money off of it, but at the same time, if it stops being fun, then why am I doing music? I might as well just work any other day job.
Right.
So, yeah, going back to the covers, it's just covers have always been a way for me to just kind of do something different. Occasionally I'll go to like, what I'm known for, or let's say covering bands that are maybe similar to the Agonist a little bit. So that's what people really love and people really want to see. But then I just like challenging myself and doing stuff that are like genres of music that people are not used to hearing me do.
Yeah.
Um, because that's how you get better, I think,
Yeah.
by just experimenting, doing some stuff that's a little outside the box.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're Iron Maiden. You've done Tim Burton, the Nightmare
Yeah,
Before Christmas, which was really cool. I remember
totally.
seeing that quite a while back. Yeah, like I said, I check it out all the time, and there's all sorts of cool stuff on there and interesting things. And it's gotten me to listen to some things I normally wouldn't listen to. So, and I think that's
Especially.
important that, just always expanding kind of, at least for me, I really like to explore, even though I'm a metalhead, I like to explore a lot of different music. So I grew up with a lot of different music. So speaking of which, I was going to ask you,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of how did you get started as far as being a vocalist? What did you come from a musical family? No.
Not at all. Both my parents are like tone deaf. They can't
Oh,
even
really?
sing in key. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I got this from. I think my mom's mom, so my grandma, used to sing when she was young,
Okay.
but not professionally or anything like that. So yeah, not a musical family at all. It was just kind of something I was thrown into, because when you're a kid, they kind of look for that in school. They look for kids that can sing so they can be in like the school plays and stuff like that, or the choirs. And I was just one of those kids. So teachers would just, give me roles and I would do them. Because when you're a kid, you don't really say no, right? You can't really say no unless you're like extremely shy or something and you tell your parents, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Um, so it was just something I was doing all my life, and I don't think I ever seriously considered it as like a profession until I heard heavy music. Until I was like 14 or 15 and I discovered bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, the classics, Led Zeppelin. Um, that was kind of what I was like, "Ooh, this is different than everything else on the radio." Um, Obviously I'd heard like some crossover bands, like maybe Evanescence or Linkin Park, stuff like that, and I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't until I heard the even heavier stuff that I started considering it for myself.
Gotcha. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now I know you were fairly young and you moved to Greece, correct?
Yeah.
Um, what was the what was that like in terms of being a vocalist, in terms of music? Did that have a big impact on you in terms like for instance, Greek folk music and
Mm,
and kind of the Euro disco sound that's very prevalent in Greece and the
mhm.
Mediterranean countries. Did that have a big impact on you as a vocalist?
I think so. I think it probably fed even more into this like variety of music that I listen to.
Mm.
Um, because I'm thinking not only from a musician perspective, but as a person, like because I think your musical output is not only like influences from music itself, but it's from life in general. And there's a big cultural difference between, the USA and Greece.
Right.
Like I'm looking at my family, for example, that was born and raised here, like cousins and stuff like that. And I feel sometimes really disconnected because they grew up a certain way, whereas I grew up a certain way here. And then when I was 10 years old, I went to a place where everything is like the exact opposite. So I
Right.
feel like I carried a lot of like elements from both countries, both lifestyles, and all that. And the music that you mentioned is what's popular here is very different from what's popular there. Um, Also, Greece being a European country, I'm sure you know this, that like the style of metal that is appreciated in Europe is very different than the style of metal that is prevalent here in the USA. So I really do feel blessed because I feel like I've gotten the best of both worlds. Sometimes I'm here talking to my friends like from the States or Canada, and I'll mention this band that like is huge in Greece, and they'll be like, I never heard of them.
Hmm.
And vice versa. Like I'll go to Greece and I'll be talking about this band that's like really big here in Chicago or something, and they'll be like, nah, no one really listens to this here. Um, so if anything, it's like very educational and definitely gives me an appreciation for, different cultures, different people, mindsets, musical styles, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that was, you kind of answered that, but in terms of living, and I'm not sure how long you lived there, but I mean, just the culture, did that impact the way you write music as well, or write lyrics to some degree?
I think so. I mean, I can't go back in time and, do like what do you call it? Alternate universe. Like what
Right.
would my life have been like had I stayed here forever?
Right.
So I was like 15 years in Greece.
Okay.
From the age of 10 to like 25, and then I moved back. So basically half my life. Half my life has been there, half my life has been here. Um so yeah, I can't ever know what kind of person I would have been had I just stayed here my whole life. I'd like to think that I'm a lot more open-minded and accepting naturally because of, experiencing very, very different cultures and people and all that. Like when I first went to Greece, I got picked on, of course, because I was the outsider. I was like the kid, the American kid, you know. Um, I would, I would, funny enough, I would purposefully, in English class, I would purposefully give myself a little bit of an accent because when they would hear me talk in American, they would make fun of me because of how proper and correct it was.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
would sometimes pretend to not be as good as I actually was, you know. um Stuff like that, where it's like that shouldn't happen, obviously. And when you're young, you take things seriously, a little too seriously.
Right.
Um but because I went through that, I don't know, I feel like it gave me how do I explain this? I really realized how different people are, how different kids are, different cultures, like I said, and touring, of course, later on in life, visiting all these different countries and seeing how people are, it really opens your mind. And I've just always been a type of person where it's like, I'm not very judgmental. I'm just like, you know, okay, you're like this, and I'm like this, and that's cool. And I appreciate that like variety and in different minds, and like if we all thought the same and we all felt the same, the world would be a very boring place, I think.
Yeah.
So I think maybe had I grown up, in one city, in one house all my life, one environment, maybe I'd have a bit of a harder time seeing what life is like somewhere else. Whereas the constant change, it just feels natural to me. Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. Um, so, as you said, you were in Greece for 15 years. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was towards the end of your time in Greece, you were in the band Rage of Romance, which was a Greek symphonic metal band. Um,
Yeah.
and
Um,
then, and that was what, 2014, I think, was when that album came out.
Yeah, I think I recorded it in 2013. I wasn't a permanent member in the band because they were from a different city
Oh,
from
okay.
where I lived, and they're all like, they all have day jobs. They just really did this band and this project, pure love for music. And yeah, I agreed to step on and do that album with them, and I probably would have done more albums had I not joined the Agonist. But yeah, I didn't actually ever have a permanent band before the Agonist.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So so that album, Rage of Romance, and then you did that album with them, and then shortly after you joined the Agonist, I believe in
Mhm.
2014, correct?
Yeah.
2015. No, 2015 was the first album that you recorded with them.
Yeah.
I Have Providence. I believe that came out in 2015 or 2016. I'm terrible with dates, but
It's okay. Yeah, no, I joined the band in 2014. We recorded I Have Providence within like the first 3 months.
oh wow.
But then it was released in 2015. Yeah.
Now, were you still in Greece, or had you moved back to the States at this point?
Well, the timing was kind of perfect because towards the end of 2013, I was considering moving back to the States because I felt like I was 25. I felt like the things I wanted to do would not be achieved if I stayed in Greece.
Mhm.
But my way of thinking was, oh, I'm gonna move to the US and I'm gonna find people there and I'm gonna, start my own band here and all that. But as I was thinking that, the whole opportunity came with The Agonist, which is a Canadian band. So it was just perfect because instead of coming here without a plan, I came here with a plan.
Nice, nice. Now, how did you connect with the Agonist? Did you try out? Did they know? Did they contact you? Kind of how did that play out?
Yeah, they contacted me. I was doing YouTube covers as you mentioned earlier. I hadn't done too many at that point. I was maybe doing it for about a year,
Mhm.
and I don't know how they found me, but they did, and they obviously didn't tell me right off the bat, like, hey, we're looking for a new vocalist, because you don't do that with a complete stranger.
Right.
We just got to talking, and you know, it was Danny, the guitar player, that was kind of basically he went with the story that he's looking to start a side project, and showed me some tunes and just to kind of see what I can do with it.
Okay.
And because like he knew I had a good voice and all that, but he didn't know how like I wrote music, like lyrics and vocals and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a test. So I was like auditioning without knowing that I was auditioning.
Interesting. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Um, and obviously, that was probably maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth. I would imagine it was a little daunting. Here was this established band, fairly well known at the time, touring with Camelot, and their singer was well known at the time, and suddenly you're taking over that position, and there was some drama around that at the time, of course, just with the previous singer, but it seemed like you really took hold and took ownership of that vocal opportunity very quickly, in my opinion, and I think change. I mean, you didn't, it wasn't a change so much in the sound of the music, but it was a definite, it felt like it really was moving forward in a lot of ways when you took over as the vocalist. It changed the sound to some, obviously you're a different singer, you have a different
Yeah.
vocal range, but similar, but it just seemed to add new life to the band in a lot of ways, and nothing against, those guys are great, they're amazing musicians, but it just felt a lot different. It felt, I don't, for lack of a better term, it kind of felt like there was a weight had been lifted off the band, and it just felt more free and open and
Mm.
expansive in a lot of ways, I thought, musically, and especially, you're in, we this well 2019 was the third album that you were on, so the Orphans right here,
Yeah.
which I think is really the crowning achievement of the Agonist up to this point. I think it's a perfect album. It's so good, and it feels very tight. in terms of musicianship. It seems like you guys really are a tight band that works really well together. And I've seen you live, and you guys have fun together too. You seem to enjoy each other's company and feed off of each other in the live setting, which is cool to see. You know, what are your thoughts on, you know, as far as kind of joining the band and how that all kind of played out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. There's so much that I could say. The easy part for me joining this band was that I wasn't a fan of the band before, so I didn't have this like weight on my shoulders. Because you know, if you're a fan of someone and you have to replace them, um, I think you internalize that pressure even more because you want to like live up to it, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't really know the band aside from like one or two music videos that were on YouTube that some friend showed me. Um, I hadn't heard their music, so I wasn't like fangirling over them, which made it a lot easier, obviously. Um, like I think most people would tell you I can't replace one of my idols, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so there was that, and then there was also the fact that the band didn't really know exactly what they wanted to do moving forward. There were a lot of question marks, so there was a lot of open space to kind of just try out stuff and see how it goes. So I didn't join a band that, you know, wanted to take me and put me inside a box and tell me this is what you're going to do. I joined the band that was like, we don't exactly know what we want to do either. We like what you do. Let's see how this band can move forward. And in some aspects that worked for us, in others it didn't. I think Orphans is probably that good in comparison to previous releases because that was the moment where the band kind of just knew.
Mm.
Like we collectively sort of, we didn't even decide, like we didn't even have a conversation, it just kind of happened that this is the direction musically that we want to move towards. Because we tried, you know, doing a little more like easier to listen to music, catchier music, simpler music. It didn't seem to be what the fans wanted, I think because the Agonist was known for being this extreme band
Right.
with complex like arrangements and intense vocals and all that. So I feel like that stamp was already placed on the band when I came in, and we should have just continued down that path, you know. Um, but of course, you don't know, right? And you can't limit yourself and your potential based on what people expect from you. You kind of have to like try out stuff and see what works and what doesn't work. But by Orphans, you know, I think we kind of just all said, never mind what people are expecting, never mind what people are telling us to do. Let's do what feels right. And my role was always like secondary. I would just get the tracks as they're completed and add the vocals and the lyrics and stuff like that. So I felt better with Orphans because I felt like, yeah, this is what the band should sound like, and I knew what to do with the vocals on those tracks, you know.
Yeah.
Um, because I'll write music to any, I mean, I'll write vocals and lyrics to anything, but it doesn't always feel like it clicks as much. And Orphans, it really did.
Yeah. Did you, when you guys were recording, you know, did you have this sense that like, wow, we're doing something really big here. This is going to be impactful. Like this is different than what we've done. This is a big album. Did you have a sense of kind of that grandiose, you know, or kind of what you were doing? Did you have a feeling like this is it? This is something really big.
I felt that with certain songs, from the demo process.
Okay.
Because I have, not all musicians are like this, but I can sort of envision what a song is going to sound like in its final form from the demo stages.
Okay.
Whereas other people, they need to hear like the final, you know, produced, mixed, mastered song. So I did have that feeling with certain songs. As I was writing the vocals, I could tell in my gut like what was going to be a strong song and what people were going to freak out over. Um, biggest example in Vertigo. I
Yeah.
knew I knew people were gonna like lose their shit when they heard that song. Um, Blood is My Guide as well. I knew people were gonna freak out when they heard that Greek section.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes you just know. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of that, the Greek section in Blood is My Guide, do you have any intention? Have you thought about, doing more Greek in the future in your
Yeah.
lyrics and your
I
music?
think if the moment calls for it, absolutely. I've always been when it comes to songwriting, I always just like listen to what the music is kind of telling me to do. I don't really like gimmicks. Like I don't like the idea of writing a song to impress people. 'Cause I feel like that is happening a lot right now
Yeah.
in metal, especially with like all the reaction videos and everything coming out. People are they're writing songs in a way to make people have like an insane reaction like, "Oh, let's put a breakdown. Let me go as low as I can possibly go with like my gutturals. Let me hit the highest note possible on this chorus." There's a lot of like trying to impress songwriting happening right now. And I think if the moment calls for it, absolutely. Um, so going back to Blood is My Guide, when I heard that section, it reminded me a lot of Greek music.
Mm.
The scale, not the scale, what's it called? The mode, I guess, the melody. It sounded like this could be played like in a traditional, Greek instrumentation as well. So I put the Greek language on it.
Nice.
I wouldn't I wouldn't have done that if the moment didn't call for it. So if we do write more songs where I hear like a section like that and it just kind of like speaks to me, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought it fit really well. It felt
Yeah.
natural,
Exactly.
as you
Yeah.
said, it fit really well with the melody. It worked really well, and
Yeah.
it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like a gimmick. It was just, yeah, it felt
Yeah.
very natural, which was cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
would yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I would never want to do that, write something just to write it. Because obviously, we have those talks with my bandmates sometimes where it's like, we should write a song that does this, or that does that. Or while we were writing some new songs, Simon asked me, our drummer Simon, he asked me if I'm gonna use like my low growl again anywhere because people really like it, and I'm like, yeah, if the part calls for it, I'll do it. But I'm not just going to start doing stuff just to impress people.
Yeah,
It Yeah, we're creating music, I
right.
think.
And I know that's very important. That's I think one of the things that always attracted me to the band was the musical integrity of the band, where it's a kick-ass extreme metal band, but it always feels very organic and natural in terms of the music and what's coming out. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it feels like it's reactionary to society rather than reactionary to, okay, what's popular, what can get us on the radio. It doesn't seem like there's never been that focus. And it's not music that you can play in the background. It's something you need to sit down and listen to it.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah.
it's music that kind of grabs you and like, oh wow, and especially with the time signatures, and there's a lot going on. It's very complex. Even though it's really heavy, it's very complex. There's a lot happening. I mean, there's time signature changes all over the place, and in one track there'll be a lot, but it's not chaos. It's just it's kind of progressive melodic death. It's brilliant. I think it's really fantastic what you guys are
Thank
doing. There's
you.
some really cool stuff.
Thank you.
Is it a collaborative effort in terms of writing
At
with you in the band?
at this point, yes. I think album after album, I've just been having more and more input.
Nice.
Um, Because like going back to when I first joined the band, something that I thought of that I could have said earlier is that I felt very shy. I'm not a very dominant person. Like I won't step into a room and be like, "Listen up everyone. This is what's happening."
Hmm.
I don't do that. I just sit in the back, but I will speak up when I think something is wrong or something feels off, you know. But normally I go with the flow. So when I joined the band, of course, I was the new person there. I had zero experience when it came to how professional bands do stuff, you know? I didn't even have a local band before that.
All right.
So I just, you know, sat on the side and just did my part. I wrote my lyrics, I wrote my vocals. But as time went by, I felt like, yeah, okay, I have more of a role now. And with like the new songs, for example, the inception usually starts from one person. Usually Danny, he writes most of the music, but there occasionally have been like songs that started with Simon or Paco. And then we just kind of step in and talk about the structure a little bit. Like, should this part be a little longer? Should it be shorter? Should the chorus come back again? You know, should we have a guitar solo here? Like, stuff like that. Little tweaks to just take the song from like, you know, 80, 90% to the best it can possibly be. Um, Whereas looking back, you know, we didn't do that on I've Providence. We didn't do that on Five. We did it a little bit on Orphans, but now we're doing it a lot more.
Okay, nice, nice. It's interesting that you mentioned that you said you were shy and you kind of take a step back because you have a very commanding presence on stage. You know, at least when I saw you guys, I mean, you were in control of that audience. It was, you know, I mean, I would not, I was surprised when you said you were shy because you have a very commanding presence on stand. The whole band does really. I mean, it's because that show, it was when you opened for Flesh God Apocalypse, so several years back, because when I saw,
Wow, and that was a while ago.
yeah, so and it was in a small venue here in Salt Lake, and I was able to, you know, I was right in front of Chris, I believe, most of the time, but yeah, it was cool how, I mean, you guys came out swinging like right away. it was very profound. It was very cool.
Awesome.
Uh, so as far as and I'm kind of going backwards a little bit here. I meant to ask this earlier. You have a very, you know, expansive vocal range. Kind of who are some of the singers that have influenced you? I mean, because you do a lot of different styles, and I mean, you can growl. You've got a huge range. So I was kind of curious, like who, as far as vocalists, who were kind of the biggest influential, you know, vocalists for you?
It's really hard for me to answer that question because like I do obviously have like the first vocalist that I hear that I heard that inspired me to do this. Um, but are they the vocalists that influenced me the most to this day? Probably not.
Oh, okay.
Um, like if you ask someone who's your favorite band, they're usually going to tell you like the first bands that they heard at a young age that just kind of like stuck with them.
Right.
It's not very like often that you're going to discover your favorite band or your favorite vocalist in your 30s, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like the first bands that I listened to that I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." Like I mentioned, were from the more mainstream side like Evanescence and Linkin Park, and then moving on like vocalists and bands like Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford. I really loved The Gathering, so Annika van Giersbergen, um, Opeth, Dark Tranquillity. Those were like Pain of Salvation. Those were the first bands where like I heard a vocalist and I was like, wow, this is awesome. But then like that's just the beginning. Do I sound like any of those people? Probably not. 'Cause like I feel like my musical library is so varied. Like obviously metal is like my one big love, but I listen to so many things. Like I listen to soundtracks, I listen to like more indie chill stuff. Um like I really love Tori Amos, for example, as a vocalist. Um it's just so all over the place that I can't even, I don't know. I was like I listen to music and I hear a vocalist and doesn't matter who that vocalist is, if it's something that they did that I like, I'm like, let me learn how to do that, you know. So my influences, they could be like 50, 100 different vocalists. I don't know.
Interesting. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's cool that you listen to a lot of different stuff. I think that's important for any musician to listen. And it's always fascinating for me to talk to professional musicians and find out what they listen to. It always, it's never what I think it's going to be, which is good.
Right.
I think in a lot of ways, I'm always kind of surprised by what people listen to.
Yeah.
Kind of blows my mind sometimes. It's cool to hear that. Um, Speaking of different music, you're doing a project right now with your husband, which is kind of a rap metal kind of
Hmm.
fusion thing, which is really cool. Sicksense. How did that come to be? Um,
So that was like complete random out of nowhere. Like it wasn't planned. Um, the two members from Sicksense right now, guitar player Bran and the drummer Cody, had this other band called Keychain, and they were looking for a new vocalist, I believe, in 2017, late 2017. And somehow Robbie was recommended to them because he raps and he screams as well, and they were doing that whole like new metal, rap metal thing. But he doesn't sing. And he auditioned for that. He wrote two songs. And I helped him a little bit with like adding some like melodic backing vocals just to make it a little bit more interesting. And Bran responded to him, basically saying that he loves his raps, he loves his screams, his lyrics, everything's great, but he doesn't want to move forward with a band that doesn't have singing in it because he felt like you're not going to explode if you don't have singing. Like people want to sing along to something at the end of the day. So you're just kind of keeping yourself limited and a very niche band if you don't have that element in there. Um, but he couldn't sing, so the whole idea came with like, okay, how maybe we should get a second vocalist. And then I helped him write a third song, which is actually Make Believe, the song that we put out. And we wrote that chorus with another vocalist in mind. I'm like, okay, let me help you write this. And he sent it over. And then that's how the idea came that, like, should we just ask Vicky to be a part of this, Um, and I was just like, in the beginning, I was like, nah, I can't do this. People are gonna like freak out. People are gonna hate me. Because, they're so used to me doing this like progressive, extreme death metal thing. And I'm gonna come out with like mainstream new metal, whatever this is.
right.
Um, but then I told myself I was just being stupid. You can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. And I think it's actually for the best that they're so different.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't want to be in two bands that sound the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fun. It's really. I was surprised. I was, when I think you posted the video a few weeks ago, or kind of a teaser before it was released. I'm like, wait, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
who's Killer V? What do you? What is this? It's like, oh, this is cool. I really like this. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
it was really fun.
and that's what's important to us with that band. We're not trying to come out and be all super serious and like I think the music is serious, the lyrics are very serious, very important messages in our music. But I think it's okay to present it in a way where it's like we're just having fun, we're enjoying life. I think it's more relatable that way. You're not trying to like force anything down anyone's throats or anything like that. We're just like here, we're doing our thing, we're having fun. And it's all been super smooth so far with that band, like no stress. Everything just seems to like flow really well and work out for us. So I'm
Nice.
really excited to see how things are going to develop.
So there'll be an album, correct?
More of like we're thinking an EP to
An EP. Okay.
start.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Just cuz I feel like especially when you're starting a new band, people don't know you yet. So I feel like if we were to drop an album tomorrow, it would kind of just, you know, pass by. A lot of people wouldn't hear it. So I kind of just want to like do some singles first and kind of build a fan base slowly before we drop an actual full length album.
Nice. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Do you think there will there be a tour? Do you think? Do you think you guys will do some live shows?
I mean, we'd love to.
And
I
once
I'm
things are
I'd
safe.
be Yeah, I'd be really excited for this band to tour, to play stages, because it's just super easy music to play. It's I'm sharing the vocal duties, so I can just like go a little harder on the stage and not worry about like being out of breath or anything like that, like I am with the Agonist, where it's just like motor mouth the entire time. Um, so it should be like a breeze for me, and I think the music is very like groovy and very easy to just like bob your head to. So I think we'd probably be a very explosive like live band.
Nice. Yeah, that would be cool. Hopefully that will come to fruition. I would love to see that. It'd be a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah,
That would be a lot of fun.
for sure.
And the Agonist, you know, we mentioned we kind of touched on this earlier in the interview. You were up there, you were in Canada earlier this summer doing some recording. So
Hmm.
an EP, correct? Is that what
Yeah,
we're going to be seeing soon?
yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything you can tell me about that, or is it still
Um,
on the
de
down low at this point?
Depends when this interview is coming out.
I gotcha.
Do you have a like release date for when this is out?
It'll probably be next week. Um,
Next week. Hmm.
yeah, so early September. I know you guys. I think something's coming soon, from what I understand. So nice.
Yeah,
Um,
very soon. But I think this interview will be out before the
okay,
music comes out. So if people are watching this right now, it might be a matter of a few days before you hear new music from us.
cool. Now, will we see possibly a new album in the next year or two from the Agonist? Is there stuff in the
Maybe.
works?
We haven't written anything else yet,
Okay.
aside from what we're releasing later this year. I'm happy. I'm extremely happy we didn't decide to write a full album. Um, because with the amount of albums that are coming out this year,
Hmm.
um, I'm like, whew, we're just putting out an EP. Thank
All right.
God, because I feel like people's attention spans are not, they're not great. And if you all these amazing bands are dropping like albums and like insanely good albums, your music might go a little bit unnoticed. So I'm happy that we're not doing that. Also, I felt like it was a bit too soon with Orphans only coming out 2019,
Yeah.
late 2019, and then like the pandemic, and not, we're not able to tour. So I felt like let's just do an EP for now, get a few new songs out there just to like keep things going, and maybe like a full length maybe next year or the year after that,
Yeah.
you know.
Are there any plans for touring at this point? I mean, maybe it's too early to tell, but yeah, because yeah, as you said, you were
Hmm.
never able to tour with Orphans,
Yeah,
which
we
is
did
very
one
unfortunate.
tour, and that was it. And
Yeah,
that was just in Europe.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, we do have plans. Yeah. We do have one tour that's confirmed, one more possible tour. Nothing's been announced because, of course, even confirmed tours are a question mark right now. Like,
yeah.
we don't know what the situation's going to be like a few months from now. But we have our plans, we're moving forward, and we're just like hoping that the situation will allow us to actually tour.
That's yeah. Hopefully, I would love to see Orphans live.
Yeah.
Such a great album. Uh, Also, when you were in Canada recording, the band connected with a brewery, so right
Oh,
up my
yeah.
alley with Brews and Tunes. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm wearing my Vox and Hops T-shirt. So Matt Magaki of Cryptopsy, uh, for those that don't know, he his Vox and Hops podcast. He does a lot with beer in Canada and metal music, and he connected a lot of American and Canadian bands with breweries, and released around kind of within a 3-week period of time multiple beers, multiple collaborations between bands and beers. So you guys did the play on one of your songs,
Yeah.
from Orphans, the Blood is My Guide. You did Brew is My Guide,
Yeah.
which is very cool. With and I'm going to totally butcher. I don't think I can even pronounce the name of the brewery. I'm terrible at French. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, the fermentor,
Yeah,
microbrewer. No. But anyway, yeah.
microbrewery. Yeah, Le Fermentor.
So that
It's
was
fine to say
exciting.
it
And
with an American accent.
yeah, yeah. And you guys were fairly involved with the kind of the whole process, the brewing process, and kind of, you picked what kind of beer you wanted to do, and even helped. I think there was some video out there of you guys, dropping hops and malts into
Yeah.
the vat and everything. So what was that experience like for you?
It was fun. It was fun. We went there on brewing day and just kind of like saw the process. Like he explained how it's done, like the steps, the order of everything, and how long you have to wait between every step and all that. So it was super fun. It's like chemistry, you know. Um, I assume. I don't know. I don't know anything about chemistry, but it kind of felt like that, you know. Like don't screw up the portions of everything, otherwise it's gonna
Oh yeah,
taste horrible, you know. Um, so yeah, no, it was super fun. And the day that we went there to visit the brewery and help out, we also filmed the little the video for
oh
Brew
yeah,
as My Guide
that was
at the
great.
brewery. Yeah, super fun. It was just one of those like ideas that we had, and we just made it happen in 2 days. It was just like, go, go, go. Not a lot of planning, not a lot of thinking beforehand. It was just like, we have this idea, let's roll with it.
Nice, nice. Do you foresee the Agonist doing more collaborative uh, beers in the future?
I think so. I think like initially we wanted to do a stout.
Oh, okay.
But because the release was during the summertime for all this, stout didn't really make too much sense. Plus it needs a little bit more time in comparison to an IPA. So I think our next endeavor, we'd really like to do like a stout for the winter, hopefully.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Nice and dark to go with some of the dark
Yeah.
lyricism of the Agonist. I love it. That's good. That works really well.
Yeah.
That would be very cool. Well, I don't want to keep you all night, but
That's okay.
so as you know, Brews and Tunes, I pair music and heavy metal. So it's a Saturday. Vicky's kicking back. What beer are you drinking, and what album are you spinning?
Well, I'm not drinking anything right now, so I guess, well, you don't know, well, most people know this, that I was sick for the last 2-3 weeks. I actually got COVID.
Oh no.
Yeah. So alcohol has been a no-no for me this entire time. Um, it was okay. It was okay. Like I was really sick. I'm still like not 100%, but I didn't have any like severe symptoms. I didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. So I'm just grateful it wasn't, an extreme case. So no beer for me, unfortunately. And I do hope that when I do have beer again, that it tastes the same.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm sure you've heard a lot of people like lose their sense of smell or taste. For me, I wouldn't say I've lost it, but there are certain things that I'm tasting right now, and I'm just kind of like, this tastes a bit different
Oh,
post-COVID.
oh, no.
Yeah. But I don't know if this weren't the situation. Normally summers I like having like sours very often, or like a juicy IPA or something like that,
Nice. Do you have any
something.
favorites?
Well, I actually live really, really close to Three Floyds Brewing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I just mostly go there and pick up beers, whatever they have, or whatever seasonal, new experimental beer that they're doing. I'll try anything from that brewery.
Yeah.
So I do have a few in my closet actually that I've not been able to drink.
Yeah, Three
Hopefully.
Floyds, they do some great stuff. They would be an excellent choice for an Agonist beer because they do a lot of metal collaborations.
I
Just putting it out
know.
there. Just putting that out there.
I know. Well, I do go there often and buy beers for, to bring home. So maybe one day I'll just be like, hey, I've spent a lot of money here.
You know who I am.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. All right, so cool. So Three Floyds Juicy IPA, and then what album do you like to spin while you're throwing back a brew?
I don't know. what have I been listening to recently? Um, I'm trying to think if I've heard like a full album yet. Because I have like a weekly new releases playlist
Oh, okay.
that one of my patrons kind of updates every week because he's a journalist, so he gets like albums before they come out and he just has his like personal picks and all that. And I've discovered some like great new music recently, but I don't think I've heard a full album yet. Like something that came out. I don't know. Do you have any like new release that came out like this month or last month that you're really liking right now?
Um, yeah, it's, kind of like what you mentioned. There's so much music coming out. It's a little
Yeah,
overwhelming, and I've purchased so much stuff recently. It's like it's hard to keep up with some of it. And
exactly.
um, I know it came out earlier this year, but the new so I'm I like a lot of different stuff, but I'm kind of old school thrash metal guy, and the newest Flotsam and Jetsam album, Blood on the Water,
Oh,
is fantastic. And I saw them live just this past week and they
oh,
killed it. I mean,
cool.
for a bunch of old guys, they're amazing, like
Yeah.
amazing energy. I mean, it's like a passage back into time, like seeing them in
Yeah.
1986. They're just, they tore the place off, tore the roof off the place. It was really cool. But man, there's just so much. Rivers of Nil, their stuff's their latest album, which I guess that was actually last year.
They
um
are putting out something new though, I
yeah,
believe.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think. There's just been, yeah, like you said, there's so much stuff coming out. It's which is
Yeah.
great, but it's, yeah, a little overwhelming. It's
It really is. It really is. And I'm like more at this point in my life, I do listen to full albums, but I'm more like interested in discovering like newer stuff.
hmm,
So I'm more like interested when I see a band name that I've never heard of or an artist that I've never heard of and, to listen to a new song rather than being like, okay, here's this band that's releasing album number 10, let me check it out.
right.
Which I probably still will, but I guess I don't know. I'm very curious to see like what younger up and coming bands are doing.
Yeah.
Um and
Is
just
there
discover.
anybody? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was is there
Um
anybody that you've listened to, like, new, that you're like, wow, this is really cool? Is there something that kind of really struck you from the music you've been
uh
listening to lately?
I listened to this band. They're actually on Napalm as well. They're called Vexed. They're from the UK and I'd say they're like melodic, sort of deathcore-ish or a heavier metalcore. I don't know what you'd describe it. I hear a lot of like Whitechapel influences in their music.
Okay.
Um, and I think that might have been the last like full-length release that I heard. It came out earlier this year. And I was really impressed because I think it's their debut album. And I was like, this is really good for album number one. Um, as long as you like that genre of music, of
Right.
course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
really good.
Nice. Very cool. Well, Vicky, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been fantastic. This was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it a lot. So thank you so much. Good luck to you. In the coming days. I hope you feel. It sounds like you're feeling a lot better. So I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully, once you're able to drink beer again, your taste buds will be
I
in
hope so.
tune. Everything will be fine. And yeah,
Yeah.
so new music coming out. New music has already come out from Sicksense, and then
Hmm.
we're going to see some new music from the Agonist very soon, which is exciting. And of
Yeah.
course, your YouTube page, and also your Twitch page. People can check you out, check out what's going on with your music there. A lot of cool stuff, great covers. Like I said, I
Hmm.
think I've watched and rewatched the Devin Townsend cover you've done. I don't even know how many times.
It was a
I
fun
love
one.
it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that song so much.
Yeah.
But very cool. So thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.